feel that this is something that they should adopt, and also at the end of the day pronounce themselves on the way forward. So various senior government officials were in tandem, were in agreement with actually the chair of the senior officials committee, and we see an objection to that. So now what you're waiting to see is the committees that are going to be formed, because like we said, you'll have the political committee there.
Yes.
You're going to have then a committee. There's the political committee and the economic and then the social committee. All these committees each will handle specific bits, and then later when they converge and return, that is when we shall be having the final declaration or the draft of Kampala document by these various committees. So day one is basically these senior officials. Now, what they look through is what again they are going to present to the ministerials, the ministers. That will be tomorrow. Then when we shall have the heads of state and government meet, then it is one feeds into the other. One feeds into the other. At the end of the day, that is when you will finally have a total roundup and a proper document or declaration coming across.
Well, of course, as of now, there is a tea or coffee break that is taking place after the establishment of the political committee and economic and social committees that are taking place immediately after the arrangements are done, because the Victoria Ballroom is going to be hosting the political committee. Then the main hall of the Renzori Convention Center, where the footage was coming directly, will be in charge of the Economic and Social Affairs Committee, like Chirabas mentioned. Afterwards, they will be coming up with a draft, rather, and consideration of the draft Kampala final document by the two committees that will have come up with the final discussion or agreement on the same. Let's get back to our theme, Robert. Before we go
to the theme, when you are watching as UBC is telecasting the live broadcast, what have been your observation?
Well, first of all, my observations have been the fact that when you look at most of the representatives here have been very, brief and straight to the point. To the point, knowing that we have so many crucial points to address, so many, I think every country has got issues that they want to put forward, but everyone is actually coming up to address an issue as direct as it is. So it's a fast forward kind of thing to me, and when we have such meetings, you get to realize that it is a time we get to appreciate how fast decision making is taken, and I'll be looking forward to looking at how these particular committees are going to come up with a final draft, depending on the discussions that will be taking place.
Well, I've seen high level of diplomacy. All delegates so far are the senior officials. You would see that each of them, in terms of respect and conduct, was very okay. And of course, apart from one from Palestine who took some quite good time, but I think it's because his issue, the Gaza, when talked about the children, the young children that are being, where we are seeing the uncertainties that are happening there, I think it's the one that took so long a time. Of course, there's still a challenge of sound. But the chair is saying that in a very short time it will be sorted. We hope that is done. But by and large, I must say that it has been a fair, successful first quarter of the day.
Only, though, is that there's been a little bit of the time stretch, because by now we would be into the consideration of the draft, but that will be later on after the break, so we expect that to kick off maybe in a 30-minute, because it's expected to be a 30-minute break, so we will be expecting those other activities immediately after that. Still under the theme of deepening cooperation for shared global affluence is the NAM Summit 2024, the 19th edition of the NAM Summit, I should say, with the hashtag NAM Summit UGI 2024 is how you can definitely join the conversation and the discussions on the X app. Obviously, also streaming on our YouTube, that is UBC TV. So rush into there so that we can definitely get into the same. But also, besides that, if I'm to take you through the other activities that are coming up, after the consideration of the draft Kampala final document by the two committees, that is the Political Committee and the Economic and Social Affairs Committee, we are also likely to be, as you can see on your screen, we're also likely to be having a lunch break afterwards. Then after it, we shall be having consideration of the draft Kampala final document by the two committees, and then the Political Committee, further, as the Economic and Social Affairs Committee will as well be seated to have more conversations or more discussions, as you can see from the same. And of course, you can as well get to realize that the broadcast will be closed by that time, but we shall as well be giving you more details of what will be coming out of those particular meetings. Well, back to our theme, Robert, deepening cooperation for shared global affluence. Before we went into the meetings, we're looking deeper into the cooperation perspective.
Well, just like if you looked at many of the senior officials, they were talking about their faith, their trust and hope that in this movement, the non-allied movement, that they believe they can solve so much. That is why everyone would talk about, we are counting on this movement to handle this issue. Because when you're many, through cooperation, you have the numbers, first and foremost. And now these numbers, if they have a position, then they can easier push even other blocks because of numbers. Whereas if you're an individual country, it may be next to impossible. And then you'll find that some of these countries, an issue may involve 2 or 3 countries. Now, how do you bring the other members to ensure that they cooperate well to resolve that issue? That is why, if you looked at a number of them who are saying, let's not review, but let's look at incidents that have happened since the Baku conference and see what we should be adding in. And very, very clear was a conflict. How do we cooperate to ensure that we find solutions to this problem globally?
Well, of course, as Robert is mentioning Baku, just to remind you, Baku, capital of Azerbaijan, where the 18th summit of NAM was. And this is why, as of now, as the chairmanship is being taken over by Uganda, for the next 3 years to 2027, the Kampala Declaration comes in, or the statement of the Kampala Declaration comes in. On your screen, you can see it's a setup of these particular meetings, the Political Committee, then the Economic and Social Committee. Though in my other observation, looking at the Political Committee, the Social and Economic has actually been, the two committees will sit at the same time. And the Political Committee will sit as one, which clearly shows you there is a lot of priority when it comes to the political, agenda of the member states.
Well, because even in the initial formation of the NAM, it was basically a political body. Because this is something that is formed during the Cold War, where you've just had the Second World War. Of course, they were fighting, military hardware was plowed there. Now, when this had stopped, of course, you would see that there was some bit of fighting, but without firearms, and the countries, these superpowers, the Soviet Union, then the United States, each wanted allies. Where are you in this fight? And these countries decide that for us, we will not be party to any of these. So that is a political move in the first place. Then even when you look at the fact that these were developing countries that had just attained independence, one of the issues why they came together is how could they fight decolonization? How could they uphold their independence? Not to be maybe colonized again. Now, politics is the first thing that brought them together. Now, from the political wing, they look at, very important is, in case if there are conflicts, how do we solve them without violence?
Okay.
That is peaceful solutions. NAM does not look at issues of fighting. They look at dialogue.
Well, the peaceful solution, let's get into our security outlook as a country. We are the host nation. There has been heavy deployment. Why I'm calling it heavy is because it is visible. When you're moving away from the capital or around the suburbs, you'll be able to identify a number of armed officers, the army, the police, and obviously it's because of the fact that we do have quite a number of delegates in here. But a look at of our security, this is back to the preparation of us as a country. Let's get the confidence now. How confident or how important is the security outlook in building the confidence of our security in general as a country for something that we've actually established for the last years that the NRM has actually been in power?
Well, first, even the presence of NAM Uganda being able to host, because it's not just that you show interest. There is a committee, you've vetted, they look at a number of issues. Do you have the infrastructure? Do you have, even they'll look at how updated is your technology, how safe, first priority is how safe, then infrastructure.
Yes.
Then of course you must be a member of NAM. Now, factoring in all this is first to confirm that Uganda is a secure country. And of course for any country where you're hosting such magnitude of VIPs and VVIPs, we are expecting about 30 presidents. There are those that we have not yet, maybe for security purposes, they have not told us if they will come or not, but one thing is we may get this information upon their landing for security details. So for any country still, you may have visibility of security personnel, you know, because you're looking at high crime, you're looking at also low crime. High crime is the extreme, terrorism. You know, so there you'll have those sophisticated, the counter-terrorism, all that. Then light, things like snatching.
Okay.
You know, even you look at political crimes, simple things. There could be some uprising or all this. So you must ensure, because when you're having these guests, also these other havoc causers, this is the opportunity to make statement. So if you do not equip yourself properly, you may get a shame of the day. Well, so that really explains why you may see this deployments, not because Uganda is not safe, but of course because of the magnitude of the conference and the nature of guests you're going to be having.
And let's look at some of the shortcomings of NAM, some of which are going to be highly prioritized or put center forward in this particular week. Looking at the fact that in this kind of geopolitical scenario that we're in, at times you get to realize that the relevance of NAM had been questioned by a lot. And a factor here is looking at the fact that it has failed to establish an international economic order. And when I look at the fact that we have an economical and social committee, I want to believe these are some of the things that may be discussed. But not only that, there is also an argument of stopping the arms race or bringing an end to the nuclear proliferation. Some of the discussions here is the issue of Gaza. That is also going to be tabled, and NAM will definitely
even the nuclear issue is most likely to be tabled.
Obviously. Now, those are some of the things where NAM has to come out and pronounce itself, like more so its position. Then let's also look at the fact that there is it has not prevented regional confrontations. This is a very key aspect of bringing together people, because why I'm bringing this up, I'm building it around the fact that if we are looking at deepening cooperation for a shared global affluence, then when you look at the fact that we have failed, or as the non-aligned movement has failed to actually put an end or to prevent regional confrontations, what ways or what are some of the key things that need to be looked at so as to address such a big issue?
One, we must look at the principles and of course what governs membership of the non-allied movement, and to what extent are these binding To what extent is the non-allied movement able to bite or enforce, you know, compared to maybe another body like you? First, this is a non-structured movement. You know, you can't look at like you're going to look at maybe the UN that has headquarters, has a security wing and all this. Here, they respect a country's independence, sovereignty, they respect a country's decision. NAM doesn't work through coerciveness, you know, like maybe somebody may deploy. NAM doesn't work through that. For it, because of its origin, that they had seen what World War II had done, they had seen what violence had done. When we talk about the likes of the founding fathers, the Kwame Nkrumah, the Indian Prime Minister Nehru, when you talk about Yugoslavia's president, come to India, Indonesia. Now, when these, and at the first in 1961, where I had about 25 countries, and a few observers there, you find that anything to do with arms or fighting was something that they said we shall not deal with. We can only dialogue. We can only find peaceful solutions.
All right, and of course, as of now, as we continue with our conversations here, let's get to field now. We do have a team already to give us all the broadcast. Now, let's get to speak Resort Monyonyo to Timothy Nyangweso to give us more of what is happening on ground, and of course to give us the clear picture of what is really taking place there. All right, Timothy, good morning, good afternoon, good morning, good morning.
Mic check, check 1, 2, sound check 1, 2, check. Yes.
The election of the chairman of the summit was made, and Ambassador Adonai Ayebari officially became the chairman and took over from Azerbaijan there. And we discussed the first part of it, especially breaking up into 2 committees. But plenary went on to be able to discuss a few issues of the declaration that happened in Azerbaijan, to be able to decide on what can be adopted. And the technicalities were spoken about, and those were adopted, especially things in the conflict happening in Palestine there. Those are some of the pain issues that were asked to be adopted as technicalities to this agenda. And the agenda was adopted by the members of the delegation that were here. The senior officials meeting was officially started. We had from different countries speaking on what they think about the adoption here. They appreciated Uganda for having hospitality, but they also went on to appreciate Azerbaijan to take on an extra year to be able to lead the non-aligned movement. Even as we go on, 2027 has been declared. We'll be taking on the leadership there of the country. We also look at that as something that will be happening. And tea break happening right now. They'll be back for the 2 committees. One, the political committee that will be happening, but also the economic and social committee will be happening in the Renzori ballroom. Here we'll have the political committees happening and discussing everything from 11:30 there. They'll be breaking down some of the issues that they think need to be addressed in the agenda there. A lot of hard work going to be done behind this on 3 elements there: the cooperation, the globe, but also the affluence that needs to be done across. Things need to be agreed in these technical committees there, and they need to be brought back here to plenary to be agreed upon. This will be happening today and tomorrow, so that when we come to Friday and Saturday, when His Excellency is coming to this, to be able to adopt the Kampala Declaration, that will then become something that is adopted and enforced for the next 3 years as the President and Ambassador Ayebari take on the leadership of the non-aligned movement. A lot of discussions happening here, a lot of insights happening on the global scene that really affect all the countries, but also the economics has been discussed there. Some of the things that Uganda feels are the pain points that are leading to some of the conflicts that are there, but also the hunger, the war in Israel, in Gaza, happening to the Palestinians there, has been something that has been stressed about there, but also picking on what Palestine said here, they say they want to be able to have the non-aligned movement supporting them when they take their resolution to the UN, but also the post, what happens after. They want support by the countries that are in here to be able to come with them. Here at UBC, we'll keep you updated on what's happening and break down the different issues that have been discussed here. My name is Timothy Nyangweso, and that was a quick update from here at the non-aligned movement, which will be between the 15th and the 20th. Then we'll be picking up the from the 20th to the 22nd to be able to discuss those things and more. Keep it at UBC for us to keep you updated on what's happening here at the non-aligned movement.
Giving us a picture of what is happening there. Is founding. Sustainable development has also been one of the key things that you push. That is, if you look at the SDGs agenda and the like. Let's get into sustainable development for the member states of NAM.
Now, after looking at the political bit of it, definitely NAM was not going to be only there to look at politics, because much as politics is very pivotal in terms of development, also to address other issues of economic growth. How do these countries develop themselves without influence of those that they had refused to align themselves to? That is why when they came together to look at what do you have that you can give, or what do I have that I can give, and how better can we develop each other. Now, when you look at the committees even that are being put in place, you have the social, you have the economic, or looking at the development bit of it. That guys, we've come together, but how do we ensure development? So even when you look at the different declarations that have been coming, an element of economics. That is why when it comes to issues like public debt, I remember our Minister for Foreign Affairs, General J.J. Odong, in his opening remarks, he also talked about it, the debt issue, that we have an economic challenge here. That is, and remember, most of these countries get these loans for developmental purposes. No matter which, either they are concessional, non-concessional, no matter which source they have gotten them from, these developing countries look at the element of how do we get funds for development. But also their global positioning. You may find that a number of them are still developing countries, African countries, developing countries. And they look at this movement as how best opportunities that are there on individual merit. I liked one of the people in Uganda on the organizing committee that was saying, how best can we trade with the South to see that the coffee we grow in Uganda, we can have value addition to it. You know, how can we cooperate for developmental purposes? That yes, you're better than me in this area, better than me in this aspect, but we can work together. There's a win-win situation. By the end of the day, we both get monies to move our economies better.
Okay. The deepening of cooperation for shared global affluence is simply where our conversations and discussions are. 120 member states. The observer countries are 18 of that, but still we have 10 observer organizations. So not only do we expect delegates from the 120 member states, of course, we also expect delegates from the 121st member state, which is also expected to be part of NAM, that is South Sudan, or the newest member, if adopted, the newest member of NAM, South Sudan. Of course, making it a total of 54 countries from Africa. That will be part of it as well. So as the summit continues, by the way, there is also a clear observation about how the different ministers or officials from Uganda have been prepared ahead of the same. We did mention that the fact that Ugandans can as well tap into the opportunities here. Among us, the etiquette training that the ministers were being taken through, one of the key things that they were prohibited from is oversharing or sharing of business cards, and then the element of seeking for visa and fronting their political parties in such meetings. So what should the Ugandans expect from our ministers in regards to the representation of our country during these closed-door meetings?
Well, I think we've just seen the first bit of it, of day one, where if you looked at, these were not ministers, but these are senior officials, senior government officials, technocrats that are representing their countries. If you looked at how business was being conducted, how brief each was, knowing of time, how they presented themselves, shows high level and respect and knowing what to do. Now, after the senior officials, then you're going to have the ministers. Now, you're having ministers from about 120 countries coming together. They're going to have closed sessions. They have a bit of open sessions. And this is not about Uganda alone. It's a movement of many countries. And how you represent each country you're coming from matters.
Okay. And well, of course, our broadcast does take a break now, but we do return with more discussions regarding to the day one of the NAM summit here in Uganda. So stick around to UBC as we are giving you all the details from all the centers of our coverage. Good morning.